Reporting in from the Great Lake region, Superior, Michigan, Huron, Erie, and Ontario. 5 Great Lakes, all encapsulated by by Ontario, the province of Ontario on the Canadian side, and I think 7 or 8 states on the U.S. side: Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York. So, quite a rundown of geography. And hello, welcome to the planning, outcomes, and structure of your personality shows. Your personality shows. Well, as you know already, planning waits on outcomes, and structure waits upon planning. So, let's start with the outcomes. The outcomes of your personality shows, well, a better personality, to maneuver life's barriers, street cred, a familiar charm, a prepared mind, to eat light right, localism, familial, to be reminiscent rather than ruminating, to be pulled together, to master skills, to be an entrepreneur, to acquire the village mentality, to be a missionary of sorts, not the illusion of failure and success, but responsibility, initiative, and quirky. Those are your outcomes. The ultimate outcome of your personality shows is to unearth the significance of life, adaptation, and survival. So those are the outcomes. So how do you plan for something like that? Well, a shortened version of planning for something like those outcomes would be fighting for differences, or fighting indifference. To be a trusted listener, to use word, tone, and body language, to know the snuck premise. This is all planning. To know the opinion of the jury, to be off book, to have my mouth on my heart, to encourage rather than collect, to know how to make an entrance. And all this planning is to service your growth, safety, and insight. So servicing safety with support, encouraging, ennobling, but not enabling. To service safety with finesse, rattling the outside world. To service safety by having grace, being quirky, having a cussionary effect. When you can speak your thoughts out loud and have a cussionary effect, the ability to speak your thoughts out loud and know that you won't get a reaction. That's the planning. To service growth, it's measured, it's palpable, like you can feel it. It's bold, it's candid. Candid? Sharing how I feel without sharing the whole story of how I feel that way. Candid, seeing both sides, not being partial, servicing growth through practice, and proportional growth. So if you're really good at golfing, you might want to measure up your shitty parenting to bring it up at the same time as your golf so that you're growing proportionally across all segments of your life: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, vocational, familial, social, banter, influence, and a reciprocal nature, growing proportionally. So the planning aspect of your personality shows services your growth in that way. And one more, your planning for your personality shows services your insight. Your spoken words. It services you. It names attributes, adjectives. Proxemic. The space we take the space we think is necessary between people. Or, when that couple's a little too close at the bar or a little too far away. We're looking out for, in our insight, for ruminating. If we're just running through the smell of alcohol and cigarettes compared to reminiscing the hot dogs and fireplace of camping last year. See the difference? We're servicing your insight, and we're having a look at those cellared feelings. So all that is the planning process. For what I love the most is the structure. The structure of your personality shows. And that's fairly complete. I'm going to look up now to my notes. So framing and then relating. Demarcation, the border or rule that shows the limits, your circle of concern compared to your circle of influence. And delineation, the act of representing something with lines or words. All of our shows have segments. We've got segments to your personality shows to make a structure. Interviews, engrams. You know what an engram is? Um, a rant. A rant is an excited, an emotional rant. That's an engram. Fighting indifferences, the Google fight. So I will fight Google. Ask me a question, anything about personality, and I'll give you a quicker and more concise answer than Google can. You'll get 5,000 answers from Google. But what I'm going to give you is a precise, concise, equally measurable, understandable answer that can be explained, where everything proves it. I know the world operates on generalities, but this show presents the nuances to generalities. Trivia, answers, these are segments. Neighbors, an entrepreneurial shout out to a neighbor that's come up with an entrepreneurial village mentality, adding value to the market philosophy of a neighbor. Another structure of your personality shows is the 30 component parts, the framework that I wrote, the done for you service, the framework that I wrote for you that has 10 parts to teach you how to have banter, looking to chat, the affect, and then 10 parts that have influence, your circle of influence that have an effect, and 10 important component parts of a reciprocal nature, an equal opposite, working in fair exchange, not taking or giving anything for nothing. So there you go. Affect, effect, and test. That's your framework. A playful attitude, untrampled by citizen glory, citicism glory. That means city dwellers that say things are just the way they are. Operating here on this show between the borderline of chaos and order. How you operate within chaos has a lasting effect on the company you keep. That's the kind of thing. Thinking and acting out what it's like. So that cussionary response where you can think and act out what it might be like, to try a new version or to see it from a different side, to find your place here in a new, meaningful way. A sacrificial attitude. The structure of the show is a sacrificial attitude. I'll lay myself bare. I'll be vulnerable for intimacy, or I'll be profane for sacredness. A reciprocal nature and working with pride, power, compulsion, self-centered, hate, bitter, resentment, and vengeance. See all those triggers? Those are things we work at to let those go. It's an inside job. Everything happens from the inside. And by the way, pretending is just thinking. So that's the play part. 13 personality traits, 10 of which achieve 3. So the 3 that this structure complements is your mutual respect. So naming off people you have mutual respect with. Being current with your feelings, that means knowing how you feel. Instead of just good, bad, and I don't know, that's what I used to think. You actually can name, okay, well, I'm angry, I'm revengeful, I'm optimistic, I'm bored, I'm overwhelmed, I'm eager, I'm joyful, I'm knowledgeable, I appreciate, I'm loved, I'm free, I'm empowered. 13 component parts of your personality traits. The 13 personality traits that we focus on here in our framework, in the structure of your personality shows, is very simple. Willingness, emotion, potential, rapport, chemistry, content of nature, discrimination, comedy, character, personality, intellect, conscience, and triggers. What do they mean? Willingness means prepared to do something. So I'd love to be a Detroit Piston, and I might say I'm willing to be a Detroit Piston, but really I'm not prepared to be a Detroit Piston, am I? Emotions. So emotions are distinctive and intuitive. Potential is showing capacity. So if you're going to maybe invest in something, you better have the money in the bank. That's showing capacity. You don't have potential unless you're showing capacity. Chemistry is this composition, this structure, this nomenclature that we agreed on between us to get things done. Like feeding the dog 2 times daily. You need to get it done. That's a chemistry. It's a intellectual idea or consciousness. Content of nature, well, the physical phenomenon of content of nature is nature. And discrimination, distinguishing between. We mixed up the meaning of that word in the last 10 years with a woke mind virus. But discrimination actually means discrimination means distinguishing between. Anyways, about more meanings, comedy is amusing aspects and wordplay. Character is mental and moral qualities, your mental and moral qualities. Intellect is your faculty of mental power. Your conscience is your inner voice and guide. And your triggers are your compulsions to react. So those are your definitions. And you could punch all those personality traits into Google and get a 5,000-word answer, or you could go with mine. The done for you service of this channel is that I've done the research for you. I've narrowed it down. I brought it down into a simple definition so that you can use that as a basis, as a framework to develop and sharpen your own personality. So, strong and weak. The framework gives us evidence of if you're strong and weak in each of these personality traits. So if you're strong in your willingness, you're effective. If you're weak, you're coerced. If you're strong in your emotions, you're current. You can name them. You know how you feel. Your eyes match your mood. If you're weak in your emotions, you're trampled. You've got your feelings trampled, thwarted down like a cigarette butt, discarded. Rapport, mutual respect. You're strong in your rapport if you've got a familiar charm. You're weak in your rapport if you're unctuous. Oily, soapy, that used car salesman. That's the idea with rapport. That's not rapport, not mutual respect. It's weird. Discrimination. You're strong in your discrimination if you're candid. If you can look at both sides, if you can distinguish between both sides and be candid. You're weak in your discrimination if you're partial, if you're favoring one side. And all this goes into deep detail. I'm just giving you the cream off the top here. So that's discrimination. Comedy. How do you know if you make anyone laugh? Do you make people laugh in your life? Can you list off the giggles that people get from your conversations or your actions, your body language, your tone, your surprise, like being given a scrumptious meal? Do you light up? Well, comedy is strong if you're unsung. If your audience can see that you're still learning, like me, obviously, and you're weak if you're extreme. Everything's extreme or nothing, right? Extreme other end. Character, you're strong in your character, your mental and moral qualities, if you're counted on or if you count on others. Even to count on others is strong character. Or if you're counted on, people rely on you. That's a strong character. But if you're weak in your character, then you're apathetic. I don't care. Or sheer, like a sideways glance. Who do you give a sideways glance to? Who do you admonish? That's a lack of character. That's a weak character. Personality? A strong personality is resonant, distinct, individual. A weak personality is hopeful, begging. I'm kind of hopeful. I'm hoping things will work out. That's a weak personality. You're strong in your intellect if you're resilient, if you can withstand, if you're strong, if you can back up your personality. Weak in your personality is certitude. If you just accept things the way they are, that's a weak intelligence level because things change. Everything changes. And on to conscience. You're strong in your conscience if you've got a rescue junction. So if there's a spot that you can resist stress easily, where you know already in your conscience that this is not an intersection of my inner voice and guide. That inner voice, that skull-sized hell that continues going and going and going in your brain. If that voice can meet up with your guide, call it God, call it your family, call it your activities, call it your career, whatever the guide and your inner voice, when they meet up and you can say no often to things, you'll have less stress and you'll have a strong conscience. Triggers, very simple. You got weak triggers if you react, and you got strong triggers if you got a rhythm. So if you can put a rhythm into your triggers that you identify, then you'll be strong in your triggers. You'll have a rhythm. So there you go. There's a lot of information. One more, the scale of feelings. So inside our framework for your personality shows is your scale of feelings. And getting current with your feelings, being able to think a better feeling thought. So it's kind of anti-intuitive when you think you've got to make your way up through the scale of feelings from fear to freedom, but there's actually 21 steps between. And this framework teaches you a system of asking a better feeling thought to get up that level without using shopping or overeating or whatever it might be to feel better. You can use these better feeling thoughts and work your way up the scale of feelings. And one more part of our structure is the hierarchy of mental health. So you can learn on this program what the hierarchy of mental health is. And it's right here, and I'll read it off for you. So I think it's 13. Trust at the top, hope, rest, empathy, humor, self-care, self-transcendence, self-compassion, healthy relationships, coping strategies, sleep, treatment, and support. So through this program, you'll be able to see where you are in the mental health hierarchy. You can say, yeah, I got shitty friends, so I got to get healthy relationships. You can pinpoint it. So all this work is done for you. I've done it for you. And I've had helpers. But as far as this channel goes, it's these books, it's me, and it's you. So come on along for a ride through the planning, outcome, and structure of your personality shows to make a difference, a good difference, because you could kick a dog and make a difference, or you can make a good difference. And I know you want to do that. I know you want to do that. You want that familiar charm. You want that outcome of street cred, how to maneuver barriers, to be a referral source, to be reminiscent, to have familial, that means family and friends, to move away from the illusion of failure and success, pride and rebellion, to move towards a responsible, initiative, quirky personality with outcomes, component parts, and patterns, learning your patterns. Better personality, a familiar, eat light, right, practice. Localism, reminiscent, pulled together, being the type of person that's kind of pulled together. Mastering skills, an entrepreneurial attitude, adding value to the market, multitasking effectively, working within your circle of influence, a village mentality, and a bit of a missionary. See, we're all missionaries. We're all helping out. We're doing things for free. That's how you might define a missionary. They do things for free. Well, what do you do for free? Do you put up with his shit for free? And that's okay. Or do you cast a negative tone around your house when you're in a bad mood? That's free. Do you switch a smile with a stranger in an elevator? That's free. So your personality is truly defined by what you do for free. A gaggle of people together, a group of people, you're going to have this personality and that personality. They're all doing it for free. That's what makes us humans. So lots of love. Thank you for listening to the planning, the outcomes, and the structure of your personality shows. Bye.